Come find out how good the new Custodes Codex really is.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer, and today we are giving you all the tips and tricks, breaking down this codex here. There's been a lot of videos out there over the past couple weeks, and let me tell you what, I think this is it. I think this is the one. This is the one that's going to get everybody all fired up about. This is a really great codex, super exciting. Everybody has wanted Custodes. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but everybody has wanted Custodes for so many years in a playable format. At cursory look, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about this book. For instance, they're not Xenos. But I think overall, a lot of folks are going to be pleased out there with this book. So let's break it down. Let's put it on the paint table and get a talking about it. And there it is. I was actually working on some Custode models earlier. It's got some of the Forge World jammies here and some of the Vexillas and things. Just getting some of the new units put together. I got a better idea of what I'm going to be running now going forward. But, you know, it was a little, hey, I'll just make a few of everything and see how it goes. Which I'm sure a lot of you are going to do out there. There's no right or wrong way to play the new Custode book either. Now, the new book, $40 release from Games Workshop, it is about 80 pages, so it's significantly smaller than the Codex releases we've seen in the past. It is still $40. I don't know how the math works on that, but it's $40, less pages, obviously less rules. I think there's a total of 12 units in here, but it's got a ton of fluff, like you would expect to see on the Custodes, getting them up to date with everything that's going on in 8th edition. The whole Indominus Crusade, the Citrix Maledictum. There was a demonic incursion on Terra in here if you read through the lore and stuff. So there's a lot to read to get kind of caught up on. Then they show you all the different paint schemes in the bestiary section, all the painted miniatures to get those hobby juices flowing, all that stuff we love. Then it gets into the data sheets themselves, and as far as, units go, there isn't that many. I think there's 12 new things, and then of course they splash in, the Land Raider, the Contemptor, the stuff we've seen in the past. You can't take rhinos with them, but that's okay. There's a lot of different ways to get them actually into the fray right here. And then the Stratagems, the relics, the Warlow Traits, points values. Overall, the potential for this book to be terrible was super high. And I feel like Games Workshop really went out of their way to not only make the kits themselves interchangeable, like we saw with this first release kit right here, where not only can you just make the Alaris or Alaris Custodians, you can also make the Vexillas if you want, or a shield captain if you want in here. So this box actually makes 3 different types of units, which is hilarious and awesome at the same time that you have that many options. The same with the bikes that are coming out, and the same with the guard that are, or not the guard, the wardens that are coming out too. So well, with the guard you can't make the standard because there's no standard on bike, but you kind of get my drift here. Like, we are getting a ton of content, a ton of kits, and it's a very, very exciting thing, and it's very dynamic in the way Games Workshop's doing it. Fast forward to next week, we got the Thousand Sons book coming out, and they are porting over kits like the Zangor Shamans and the Hellbrute, or excuse me, the Slaughter Brute from Age of Sigmar. So a lot of different things in play here from Games Workshop. So from a kind of a macro level, it's really neat to see what they're doing. Now, there's all sorts of new artwork in here. We saw this on Games Workshop's video. They turned it into a little still video on their site. Goes into all the fluff about what's kind of going on, all the different kind of chapter, what do they call them? The shield hosts, the shield companies of the Custodes themselves. That it goes into actually more on Terra. Like, remember, Terra, or excuse me, the Imperial Palace is actually in the Himalayas. I don't know how that's possible because of altitude, but hey, whatever. I guess they got big lungs. I don't know. But all this is actually in the Himalaya mountains. There's a ton of fluff in here to catch up on. The demonic incursions, all sorts of different things, and it goes into it, and then it gets into the bestiary section. It talks about individual units, and then here's the great Wog, the beast that came to Terra, of course, in what was that, Millennium 31 or 32, I forget exactly, but that actually happened. Terra has been sieged many, many times, most recently by the demons, and it gets into all of that in here. And then here's the painted miniature section, like I said, to get all those hobby juices going. The new Terminators, the new jet bikes, all this stuff looks great in here. This is all stuff that you're going to see when you pick up your copy today, but we're going to talk more about the rules and what you kind of need to do and give you some example army lists here. So first stuff that you need to know is the army-wide special rules. Right off the bat, all the models with this ability, Aegis of the Emperor, which is the majority of stuff in here, is going to have a 5-up invulnerable, and additionally, they get a 6-up feel no pain, air quotes, save against psychic powers that cause mortal wounds. So that's cool. Now, fast forward through the datasheet section to the back here, and you are going to see some more stuff here that's very, very interesting. If you're taking these guys in a battle-forged army and hold their own detachment in a battle-forged army, aka you get to unlock their stratagems, and it's not an Imperial soup list, as folks like to call it now, then you unlock the following abilities to get stratagems, of course. But if you're battle-forged, all infantry and biker units in the Custode Detachment gain these two abilities right here. Emperor's Chosen, their invulnerable save is improved by 1, and that's not the only way to do it in this book, as we're about to see. And Sworn Guardians, where they become scoring no matter how many other models are within range of that objective. Of course, you just go down to county models if you both have a similar type of ability. But those conferring the bikes is pretty huge and forms a sort of the basis slash happy surprise for one of the lists we're going to talk about today as well. Stratagems, we're going to talk about a few of those, but let's fast forward to some other stuff that is of note. So right off the bat, Warlow Traits, there's 6 of them. One of them you can do with a Vexilla, which is definitely worth taking depending. Neg 1 to hit against your Warlord, but one that you can. One that we only saw normally on Nurgle, and that's a 5-up feel no pain. If you do take a wound, you ignore it. So something right there that you can't normally get, and is really only isolated to one different army. It's definitely worth something noting here. As far as the relics go, some interesting stuff in here as well. Eagle's Eye is going to improve your invulnerable save by 1 down to a maximum of 3. There's no getting to 2. They kind of restrict all of that thing. The Ulrich Aquilus, the biker model, only has a 3-up invulnerable save. In addition, you can reroll failed charge rolls for this model. So right there, that's 2 parts of that really cool Blood Angel relic that we like so much. The other being that ignored Overwatch. So you don't get to ignore Overwatch with the Custodes. You can improve their Overwatch shooting down to a 5-up with the Stratagem. And also, majority of the time, you're going to be rerolling 1s because you're going to have a shield captain or somewhere near them. So you're technically going to be overwatching with the help of a stratagem on a 4 in a lot of cases, which is going to be kind of ridiculous. Just a little side note right there, a little lollygagging. Back to the stratagems, there's a couple we need to talk about that I think are definitely noteworthy for everyone out there. And I'm going to have to refer to some notes here because once you have 27 of these things, they all start looking the same. But once I can see them in front of me, that makes it a lot easier to kind of scope out. Well, let's see if I can remember. First up, from the Golden Light they call them, it's just good in general because it's going to allow you to deep strike models into play, air quotes, 9 inches away from the enemy just by spending command points. And it works kind of similar to the way unlocking additional relics work as well. But that's pretty cool to note, and it applies to infantry, bikers, and dreadnoughts. So that's really neat to see. The Vexillum Teleport Homer is a little bit different. And what that is going to do is allow you to drop your units within 6 inches of a Vexillus Praetor. Obviously one that wasn't set up this turn because you can't double dip on that. And more than 3 inches away from enemy models. So that's going to allow you to charge them a lot more easier than if you were over 9 inches away. And then of course you got to open the vaults, which allows you to get additional relics, which may or may not be good. Tanglefoot Grenade is also noteworthy in and of itself because of the fact that it's going to allow you to slow down your opponent. Choose an enemy unit within 12 inches and roll a d6. Your opponent must reduce that unit's movement characteristic or charge distance by the result until the end of the phase. It's like its own mini bubble wrap for only 1 command point, and it just goes off, which is really, really fun. Unleashed Alliance, that's your Voltron. A lot of synergy there, Alliance, Voltron, and all that. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase to split up your Custodes, your Terminators, from your army. Once they hit, they split into separate units. Each one is more than capable of being a company master on their own, and these guys they're 90 points each, and they are worth their points. Everybody's looking at the cost on here, kind of scratching their head, and we'll probably break down that just a little bit in this video here. Shoulder the mantle, that's where you can switch up your warlord, and that's not to be overlooked either. And yeah, if you're saying, hey man, there's a lot of these warlord traits or a lot of these stratagems here, I'm not going to have any command points left, but we're going to show you a way in one of our mock army lists here to kind of get you there. It's going to involve another army, which I think a lot of folks are going to probably be taking multiple detachments with this army anyways, because they're so high costed. But the fact that they are so cool and so specialized and do such focused things, it's probably okay. Let's see, what other ones in here do we need to see that are worth talking about? Oh, Victor of the Blood Games. Holy whew. Alright, Victor of the Blood Games is 2 command points. Blood Games being the whole game of they drop some of the custodians off in space or at some point in the Sol system, and they have to work their way back and try to infiltrate the palace. And through doing that over months or possibly years, they learn potential weaknesses to the palace. Only one Custode has ever been able to actually penetrate the defenses and get like right up next to the Emperor, and it turns out it was just kind of a game the Emperor was playing, like he knew he was there the whole time. But kind of one of those little things there. But it's interesting to follow along. There's a couple of short stories on how they do it and how they kind of blend in with the worker gangs, which are all genetically altered to be like almost mutant abhumans at that point, you know, to pull all the chains and do all the things for the Imperium. Remember, it's not a nice place in the Imperium in the 41st millennium. So this one's cool because what this does is going to allow you to reroll 1 hit, 1 reroll, and 1 save roll for each model each turn. Remember, we've got battle rounds and player turns. That's very interesting because this is going to allow you a ridiculous amount of rerolls, therefore saving you command points over the period of the whole game when you just have 1 in the bank for this particular character, which I would like to recommend putting on a shield captain because those guys rock. And stooping dive, which we've referred to as stupid dive, 3 command points. This is going to allow you to, air quotes, intercept a unit that's trying to charge one of your at the end of your opponent's charge phase. So after they declare their chargers, move all their stuff up into your army. It doesn't matter if it's Custodes or your allies or whatever. You can select one of your bikers that is within 12 of that enemy unit to attempt to make a charge at that point as well. And they get to fight first, your bikers, and then it goes to the hackers always go first, of course, and then they can have the choice to interrupt and yada yada yada, normal way things go. But that's a really interesting one. It is 3 command points. It is pricey, but we're going to show you some strategies there on that. So let me flip through my notes here and see if there was anything else that, and we talked about the teleport Homer. Okay, that's good. From Golden Light they come. There's a lot of different ways to move guys around the table. We showed you 2, and the Custodians actually, funny, the Alaris Terminators, they can deep strike themselves, which is really cool. Now there are some plays in here on Guardian Spears and upping strengths and doing all sorts of things like that. We're not really going to cover that in our army list kind of breakdown. Also, the Terminators themselves are the same points roughly as a bike, which is right around 90 points. These guys are 70, I believe, but then when you put the spear on them or the axe, I feel like taking the axe is better because there's no drawback. The axe is still shooting the same, and that's something else we should probably talk about. Is the axe and the spear overall are both great weapons. I don't even know why you would take a storm shield. Maybe one in a squad of the guard. The guard are the troop. The guard are 40 points. Whereas I think the other wardens are 49 points. The only difference being one is a troop, one is not a troop. But we'll talk about that here in a second. I don't think it's worth taking the storm shields. But the Custodians, I think with these guys, or with the Alaris Terminators, it's worth taking the axe with them because you're going to bring them into Baer, pinpoint with your Terminators, whether as a tertiary threat, a secondary threat, perhaps a primary threat, but probably not. These guys, once they hit like a ton of bricks with their axe. With this strength 4, neg 1 AP, and this is just from shooting. You remember, you still get to shoot. Then you melee in at strength 8, at neg 2, at D3 damage. These guys are swinging with 4 attacks. Ridiculous. They can pile in against characters deep striking. They've got the Aegis, so they're gonna have, if you're taking them in a detachment, a 4-up. They're gonna have their 6-up, feel no pain against mortal wounds, taken from psychic phase. Look at their stat line. Look, so 6-inch movement for a Terminator. First of all, that's an inch better than most other ones. They're hitting on 2s. They have strength 5. They're toughness 5. They're 4 wounds. They're 4 attacks. They're 9. I mean, a normal Terminator is nowhere near this. It's 2 wounds. This is better than 2 Terminators, which generally cost 40 to 50 points. You're actually getting a point savings on that if you think about it. Well, these guys are so expensive. No, they're actually a point savings, because if you add up a normal Terminator, that's actually not that bad. Same with the jet bikes, which we'll talk about. Oh, there is one other... Well, we'll talk about that separately when we go over the army list. There's so much to talk about. Oh man, it's hard to stay out. It's hard to stay focused. Okay, so that's the Custodes. That is, or the Alaris Terminators. That is how some ideas for them. We're not going to touch on that quite as much, but let's form the basis for some of this other stuff. Oh, well, let's talk about the difference between the Wardens and the... So you have the Wardens, which are the elites, and then you have the Custodian Guard, which are your troops. The only thing really different between them is about 9 points base. These guys have 3 wounds with toughness 5. These guys have 3 wounds with toughness 5 as well. I thought there was something different about those. 3, 3, 8. Oh, their attacks. Their attacks are different. Their movement is the same. Now, the Custodian Guard have a 3-up invulnerable if you take the Storm Shield. It might be worth taking one of those in these squads, not sure. The Wardens actually have a 6-up feel no pain all day, regardless of whatever. So they're kind of like Nurgle, except for there it's a 6-up and not a 5-up. Of course, they have Aegis and the Emperor and everything like that. They are also the ones with access to the Axis, which we talked about. So I feel like these are way more specialized, a little bit cheaper. If you're going to deep strike them in, you have to use the Stratagems, which is fine. These guys are probably better off with the Custodian Spears, holding, you know, just hiding in the back or something like that, just shooting stuff, holding objectives, or perhaps also just taking a Storm Shield in order, if something does direct its attention at them, at least they have a better chance of, you know, surviving with that 3-up invulnerable. Remember, you can never go better than a 3-up invulnerable. As far as your shield captains go, you've got the one in Terminator armor, you got the one on jet bike, then you've got your normal one, and of course you've got the Valorous, which is 250 points. Not sure how much play he's going to see, but he is good because he's a mini Guilliman. Reroll all failed hit rolls and wound rolls of 1. When I say mini Guilliman, I basically mean that not all, but if you think about it, all these guys have weapon skill 2 and 2. So who cares at that point? Like, unless you are applying negative modifiers, it kind of doesn't matter. You reroll 1s, that's good enough. You're hitting on 2s, right? So this guy does both. The shield captains are just going to do hit rolls. Same with this one, and this one. Your shield captain in Terminator armor is going to deep strike, which makes sense. Your shield captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike is not, but he does have the rerolls of 1s. I think he's a must take. And one of the lists we're going to talk about, and he can auto advance 6, so you're just like a normal jet bike, you're going to be zooming up 20 right there with this. Now the jet bikes themselves are going to come with the interceptor lance at 0 points extra. I think the shield captain here is 150, and the Praetor is right here, I believe. Let's take a look at the points and talk about it from there. The shield captain on Dawn Eagle is 150, and these guys are 80 right here. So I'm actually not sure why we're getting those up to their lance. Their interceptor lance does not cost extra. They do not cost. Oh, you have to pay for the Hurricane Bolter. Wah wah. Okay, well that makes more sense. Yep, so that's why they're 90. Okay, well that makes more sense. A Hurricane Bolter in and of itself is a ridiculously good weapon. And the fact that they have 6 shots now with this thing, its strength 4, it is no negative, but man, let me tell you what, 6 shots of these, rerolling 1s, hitting on 2s is going to do the Lord's work. Now, let's talk about some army lists now that we're up to that point right there. We know these are 90 points. We know the shield captains also are 160, excuse me, because you do have to take the Hurricane Bolter. So 160, these guys are 90 points each. So you can very easily take a detachment, a patrol detachment with 2 HQs, which would be 2 shield captains. And we talked about this on the Lone War podcast recently. You can take 2 shield captains, both with jet bikes, for 160 each. Then you could take, you know, 8 to 10 of these. Let's just spitball it right here and say we can spitball this. So 160, 160, and we'll say, hey, we'll just take 8. We'll play, we'll err on the side of caution. 9 times 8 right there. So we got 720 in bikes. Now we're going to take some, we have to have a troop, which kind of makes sense. So let's see, what could we take for a troop? We take 1 squad of these, 2 squad of those. We need 2 patrols. And 2 patrols would be pretty easy with your Custodian Guard at 40. You're going to want, if you just take normal Custodian Guard, you're going to want the spear. So that's 52. Give, I think they're squads of 3 or less. This is alive making your army list right here. 3 Custodian Guards. Okay, we'll go with 3. So that's 120 plus 36, so 176. And you know what? Let's just say, let's just give one a Sentinel Blade and Storm. I feel Storm Shield is good for 10 points. So we'll take away the 12. We'll go up 7 points. So 186 up to 193. 193 for our troops right there, and that gives us a patrol of a potentially devastating. Actually, we need to add in something else, don't we? We need to go, and here's where it gets a little crazy, is we need to go with some sort of standard. We'll just say it's the normal standard. We could go with the Terminator standard, which I don't feel like is a bad idea, just because of the fact that he has extra wounds. He has the grenade. Oh man, you know what? He's got the 2-up save. You got the 2-up save here, but you are going to get the Guardian Spear and do shooting along with your Vexilla, which is going to give you -1 to hit these guys. So I say we just take the normal Praetor. We give him a Guardian Spear. 80 with a normal Guardian Spear is 120, so that's 92 right there. And there's other stuff in here that you can take to benefit things, like for the jet bikes, you can gain additional attacks for each one you have lost in that phase. And things like that that can really kind of turn the tide if you do happen to get charged and take the middle of the table or something like that. There's a lot of interesting things there that you can definitely do with those abilities. 193, 193, 92. So this comes out to roughly 1518 right there, and that's going to be your patrol. Or I suppose you could switch it up and maybe take a Vanguard. Nah, you wouldn't be able to. You need the 2 HQs right there. So 1518 right there on the day. Now, there's a couple of other options that you can do as far as this is going to give you, this is your patrol. So you're going to have 3 + 1, I believe, for patrol command points. Then I suppose you could take guard, and that seems to be the big thing right now, is sideboarding and guard. I made this little, this is actually a battalion, believe it or not, for guard, where you could take 3 company commanders, because remember you need stuff in 3s, and then each one of these is going to have, or 2 of these are going to have, first is you're going to have the Warlord trait, which is going to allow you to get back command points on a 5-up from yourself, and then you're going to take the Relic 2 that allows you to 5-up every time your opponent does one. So hopefully you're going into plus on command points right here. This is a battalion, so this is going to give you 9 command points for 674. Now this is going to put you over 2,000 points. But it contains 6 troops, 3 mortar teams, 3 fast attack choices, so 3 sentinels, and then 3 elites, 1 weird vein for you know, dispelling, and 2 squads of rattling snipers. Now it's 70 points each. Now you could easily switch this up, right, and just make this a patrol as well to get your other +1, and that gets you, you know, a few more command points. Roughly what, 5 command points there, give or take. If you switch this up to a patrol very easily, you could slim this down and put this into 2K. But what it does is it gives you 6 squads of troops. Well, you go down to 3 squads of troops. But it will give you potentially a bubble wrap if you want to go that route to put in front of your bikes. And remember, you're going to get that -1 to hit if you are entirely within 9 inches of your Vexilla guy, whichever version you take right there. Now, you can take this same sort of list with this same sort of type of list here, but instead of this many bikes, you could slim this down to 5 bikes and fit this battalion in here very easily, of course. Or you can just sub out 90 points right here for your Terminators with your axes and treat them just the same way. Instead of bikes, you know, dancing around the battlefield, you're just going to port these guys in with some sort of other threat for the army to kind of deal with, right? Or maybe you'll throw some bikes in there too. I don't know. But the options are there, and those guys are pretty good too. Now, will either of these lists compete with top level tournament, you know, play? Nah. I mean, there's so many. The field is so wide open, and Games Workshop really continues through, you know, the playtesters and stuff to kind of fine tune it and tweak it, and you know, we're really starting to see it kind of get dialed in. But I guarantee you, both of these lists, like we talk about on the podcast, would be super fun to play and just kind of a blast. And this codex is so full of flavor and so easily allyable through detachments with other Imperial forces. It's just a blast to play. And it went from Custodes being completely unplayable to Custodes, OMG, what do I run? What do I run it with? There's so many options. I can't stop talking about it, right? So I love everything about this Custodes book. No, they're not OP. You might be able to get kind of crazy with the bikes and doing some stuff. It's possible. But at the end of the day, I don't see these guys winning grand tournaments and stuff, but I see these guys being more on the tabletop and being more recognizable out there in 8th edition 40k than we've ever seen them previously, and obviously just de facto because they have their own book. So I'm super thrilled for this book. Games Workshop, from the rules, from the kits, from just every aspect of this book itself, even the lore. The only drawback I don't like about this book is the fact that it is not as big as the other books, and there isn't as much to read in it. You know, from there, I feel like everything else is good in this book, and the models are great. It's just a great release. It really is. And then, kind of in the back of my mind, I kind of feel bad for some of the other folks that didn't get so good of a release, but it's like they're always constantly improving, and just like we've seen with Fantasy Flight, going back and adjusting points for X-Wing ships and stuff like that through the release of upgrade kits, you know, the Aces kits, and now we've seen it with Armada, where they put out retrofits for the Imperial Star Destroyers. That Games Workshop always has the ability to do that now with their chapter approved books going forward. So if you don't like 40k, just wait another month and it'll probably change to the point that you do like it. But at the end of the day, do what you like and have fun, and don't let anybody else tell you how to hobby. So that's about it for this one. I hope you enjoyed our tips and tactics video and a couple of ideas for army lists out there for the new Custodes. Obviously, if we misspoke or we glossed over something, you know, hit us up in the comments below. We'd love to chat with you guys, you know, about the new rules and the new models and everything like that. And make sure you work out your hobby muscles, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on these videos.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.